expected to sign the bill in the next few days, we are told, and there are many, many more changes the bill would make. Joining us now to sort all of this out and to talk a little bit about how it will affect local students and families is Boone County School Superintendent Dr. Randy Poe. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
There has been a large discussion about Common Core across the U.S., not just Ohio, not just Kentucky. What was the biggest issue that you saw, or the feedback, I guess, from parents on Common Core?
Well, I think that there's been a misconception. A lot of people think that the Common Core was the ceiling and not the floor. And because of that, that all schools were going to be teaching the exact same thing. And that's not necessarily the case, at least in Boone County. And that's what Senate Bill 1 was addressing, to make sure that that didn't happen across the state of Kentucky.
The idea of Common Core then to leave, if somebody moved from Boone County and went out to Arizona or another state, that they would have the basic tools in their toolbox, so to speak, and be able to slide into that classroom easily.
Yeah, and that's correct, and that's what a standard is. Then it was dependent upon each particular district to develop the curriculum to go along with that standard, but people were thinking that the standard was dictating the curriculum too much.
So Senate Bill 1, how does that differ then with Common Core? Are you just ripping basically the label of Common Core off of it and still continuing?
Well, no, I think Senate Bill 1 is a very comprehensive bill that has different dynamics in it that will allow us to measure student progress to be college and career ready to both national and local standards.
So how will this differ from before Common Core came down the pipe? How is this any different than what you were doing before then?
Well, before, what was occurring, at least in the state of Kentucky, is that the Kentucky Department of Education would adopt particular standards. And then occasionally they would survey us to see how that was being done. Under Senate Bill 1, it is being replaced with a specific process. So the standards will, so basically the Common Core, because the Kentucky Department of Education did adopt a Common Core, is their standards. Right now we're going to be going through a standards review process, and there are certain people that's made up of that particular committee, and a large portion of that is Kentucky teachers. So Kentucky teachers will have an opportunity to review the particular standards and make recommendations for procedural changes within those standards. So they will be truly Kentucky standards and not just Common Core saying they're Kentucky standards.
Now, the teachers being able to review this, it's going to be a slow kind of repeal and replace process for Common Core. Every 6 years, the review will also take place to say, okay, what are we doing right, what's working, what's not, and be able to change things instead of waiting for legislators to make some sort of high-level change.
Yes, correct. Before, I mean, basically education is an evolutionary process that learning is taking place and learning is being dynamic and changing. So this has instilled a process to make sure that the standards are evolutionary, that they are growing, and that they're keeping up with the particular times or any changes, and not waiting for either the Kentucky Department of Education or the legislative process to change it. So I actually think that that's a very good process that they put out, so that we know that every 6 years, and basically digital or textbook adoption cycle is every 6 years, but as we know, digital changes. Some of the standards were old as the material, the curriculum was changing, and we're being tested on outdated standards.
So how big of an expense will this be to Boone County and Boone County schools when you're changing this system again? Is there a cost that'll be laid out to the parents in the community?
Well, anytime that there's legislation, there's unintended consequences. We don't know what those may be at this particular time. But from changing the standards, there will not be, because basically in Boone County, we have always had the Boone County standards. We've actually taken the Common Core standards, ATC standards, the SAT standards, and we've made our own standards, Boone County standards. So we will always be looking at those and modifying those and not waiting for the process. But the process is good to make sure that, because if we are changing our particular standards and the state's not keeping up with the standards, then once again the state testing is not giving us an appropriate assessment on our learning in our district.
So you've been the superintendent since 2008, in the district itself for 34 years?
Yes.
You've seen a lot of changes. Did you have input on Senate Bill 1 at all? Were you able to meet with legislators and say, this is the way we need to go?
Yes, through our Kentucky Association of School Superintendents, I'm one of the president-elect. So I had an opportunity to meet with the different senators as they were crafting that with the LRC, and I feel very good about Senate Bill 1. I think Senate Bill 1 is a very good bill for the state of Kentucky, very comprehensive, and what it does with assessment and accountability. And those are actually two separate subjects, but people put those together.
What's the biggest challenge moving forward? Technology is changing day by day. What's the biggest challenge for Boone County School District to make sure students, when they graduate, have the skills to immediately get into a workforce that is dynamically changing day by day, month by month?
Well, that's an excellent question. What I think that what we have to realize in education is that education is no longer contained in the four walls. It's dynamic, it's happening, and we shouldn't allow schooling to get in the way of a child's education. So we have to be personalizing our particular approach to education, and technology is just a tool, but it's allowing us to personalize education and personalize a subject matter, and that's the greatest thing that we're doing. We have just been fortunate in the last month that we, a partnership with Toyota Leaving and the Ignite Institute that we're crafting with 17 other school districts across the Commonwealth just in that particular area. So we are making it P14 instead of P12, and we worked with our post-secondary partners, Thomas More, NKU, and Gateway College, and where students can earn an associate's degree before they even leave high school based on a personalized learning path. So that's what we're doing. We're breaking down those walls and those barriers to allow children not to be in education just based on their chronological age.
Right. Sounds like you're jump-starting those students.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. I look at it as exciting times in education because technology is giving us an opportunity to educate students in different ways than we ever had before.
All right, Superintendent Randy Poe, thank you so much for Boone County. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you if any other changes come down the pipe.
Thank you.
All right.